Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be reading some of the stuff that I've written throughout March in my notebook and then kind of trying to explain the kind of my like thinking or my influence, motivation, and stuff like that in relation to them. Because sometimes with um, writing, it becomes a very like bodily act where especially for me, it's like completely spur of the moment, and it's like I'm just vomiting on the page. But I think there is always some kind of uh, maybe maybe not full explanation, but at least some sort of signal or symbol as to why I'm writing or why certain words or certain images um, are the ones that I kind of look to draw upon. But yeah, anyway, I think I don't really have a plan of which ones I'll read, and they're all quite short. But I hope to kind of more of like a kind of reflective activity to try and help me think, um, or maybe even be more prideful about my writing. So, um, the first one I'm gonna read is from uh, is doesn't have a title. It's untitled for now. It's very short, very abstract, but I will try to do it justice. O Zenith, praise be to you. I'm looking for a glimpse of your tail, a sparkle in your eye. Faster and faster, I move into the kaleidoscope dream. Time speeds up and space shrinks down. Mr. Stimulator, please help. I need a good shock to the system. Something that will really sting. A stabbing anchor, maybe, to ground me in the guilt of being. But this is a helpless quest, and my armor has grown so heavy and hot that I am likely to drown in the sweat. Colorful lights form shapes in your figure. Your plastic eyes and mouth signal to me the affection I expect from the world. I rest my broken legs in your lap and hide my pulsing head against your cyborg heart. Truly a hopeless feeling to lean on you when I'm not strong. So that one, the kind of the reason why I put Zenith at the start is not really um there's not really any like deep meaning for that. I was just listening to a song called The Zenith, and lots of these little like vignettes are kind of usually I'm listening to a song or something, and then I just work some lyric from the song into it as I please, without really thinking about it too much. I think this one was kind of the first half in which you kind of have this, image of someone, gliding through a kaleidoscope of different figures and dreams, in which kind of time and space are kind of collapsing. I think I was, particularly frustrated at this time with my kind of scrolling addiction, as we all are. And I think I was kind of thinking about like the philosopher Mark Fisher, who kind of notes that when we kind of like these phones are not kind of our own, they are portals into the cybersphere, and we don't really have a kind of autonomy or power over them. I'm not sure how I think about that. Uh, I think we always need to think that this technology is still of us and of the material world. It's not kind of a transcendent thing. Um, but still, yeah, I have the. I think I was feeling quite powerless at this time to, short form content and to uh, the kind of absence of boredom and pervasiveness of anxiety that short form content kind of manifests in everyone. Uh, in short, it's all about, short term attention span and kind of the algorithm kind of sailing you away. And the next bit is, you kind of have this description of a kind of intimacy between two, post-human figures. Um, and this is all kind of this all comes, I think, from my readings of Donna Haraway, especially her essay called "The Cyborg Manifesto," which, if you don't know, it's a pretty hard essay, but it's very enlightening, I think, to certain anxieties of our time, in which we kind of see the figure of the human becoming less kind of less easily tangible, both linguistically, but also visually, and even like it's even like phenomenologically more hard to experience because um, for kind of not even for better reasons or even negative reasons, we're seeing the kind of human figure of the West be continually challenged. In some ways, for me, in positive terms, through like um, feminist and post-human and indigenous movements, but also, through kind of the workings of neoliberal capitalism, where kind of our traditions and our kind of essences that we kind of um, and our cultures, which we kind of created, uh, which kind of created us in order to kind of have some meaning outside of ourselves, are kind of all being commodified and their value is kind of being completely tarnished by you know private ownership and such things like that, and um an endless race for profit. But anyway, that was kind of a ramble. But anyway, yeah, so the second half is all about kind of talking about a kind of post-human sexuality, I guess you could say, of like two cyborg beings who are kind of yeah, emulating Donna Haraway's essay, a kind of uh finding a kind of intimacy in the breakdown of the human, and in the moment where humans can no longer distinguish themselves between machines. Uh, and there's this kind of and it's a kind of breakaway from heteronormativity and such like that, all interwoven with the kind of uh, anxiety-inducing power of the internet and cyberspace. But yeah, that was the first one. Um, yeah, the next one, um, I don't know how. The next one I think is honestly me trying to make myself laugh a bit. I wrote it while I was studying, so I think I was just taking a break and I was writing whatever. So I'll see what I can kind of at least try to dig up from this one. This one is called "And You Know I Love My TV." Also, I think it also pertains to kind of the present circumstance we find ourselves in, where we're totally interwoven with technology. And the line, and I love my TV, which is I think is just a great line, is from MJ Lenderman's song Jocalypse. So yeah. Okay. It keeps me clean in its light. I have a static bath and then dance around my air conditioner. Oh, sorry, I've ruined it there. Let me start again. It keeps me clean in its light. I have a static bath. Then I danced around. My air conditioner broke now. I want to kill myself. Swimming in the tip last Tuesday, searching for buried treasure. I was Poseidon for a moment, running with the horses and such. Don't test my aim. I'll end up naked in a ditch. You'll never believe how much love I can give you. Jesus, I just need you to open your arms just for me. Turn my blood into wine like it was always intended. I was riding the sweet static wave. I shot right through the roof. Sparks flew everywhere. I held on for dear life as I fell to my death. Pat is a straight shooter. He was a necrophile. He has a necrophile issue and can't use chopsticks for the life of him, but he means well and he isn't transphobic. I'm not perfect either. I have a biting habit and I'm pretty immature for my age. Maybe I'll shave my teeth into fangs like Dracula. Then I can play at being old and give someone a real nice chomp. Long live Elvis and long live my right to do nothing. So that one's a kind of, I think I honestly don't like it too much as I read it. Um, it's definitely emulating some similar things, like kind of um, you know, having a kind of static perspective on life, and kind of being having a kind of, instead of having a stable identity, we just live in a constant anxiety of fragmentation. And I also think it's deeply, deeply um, both inspired by, kind of some of these American postmodern people that I was reading, like definitely William Burroughs is kind of tongue in cheek, and also cut up style, which I don't really like to say, but I think it's probably there. I'm probably trying to do something that I can't really do, and I think I am trying to. It's also definitely inspired by like the super ironic humor that we kind of are always falling into, because we can't take anything too seriously, um, which is an interesting thing in itself, I guess. I don't think this one is particularly good. I added this character of Pat, and I actually read this wrong. It's meant to say Pat is a straight shooter. He has a necrophilia issue, and he can't use chopsticks for the life of him. But he means well, and he isn't transphobic. I think that's like, I don't know. I think I was just kind of trying to kind of. I think I was just kind of thinking about like the way we kind of uh, judge people, but also underlying the judgment is always like a kind of I don't know, you can kind of always see who is judging by the judgment, if that makes sense. And yeah, and in a way, we're kind of defining ourselves through that judgment. The I love the "Long Live Elvis" line at the end, I think is pretty stupid. But if I really want to kind of reach for something, I think uh, I was at this time. I say at this time, this is like a month ago, but I was kind of feeling. Um, I was reading lots of stuff on like how through kind of capitalist and neoliberal movements, we, young people nowadays are just in a, kind of uh, a never-ending state of waithood. Like it's so hard to move out. The housing crisis is reaching absurd standards, and so that means that we kind of, in some way, like culture has kind of stopped, and and also because of phones, um, it's as if the kind of there's kind of no notion of the future anymore, and this is also Mark Fisher as well, and so we kind of are um, living in a constant nostalgia, because our future just doesn't isn't kind of inspiring or exciting in any way. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Let me see what else I've got. Um, so this one is me recounting my day, basically what I did in a day. I'm gonna skip out some lines because they're honestly a bit too personal, but I'll see. So I might stumble over my words a bit, but bear with me. This one is just called Recounting My Day, or Video Essay. Last night I was chopping my fringe, bleached my eyebrows, and ate only beans and ants. After these tasks, I allowed myself to watch a compilation of male sports fights. Then I went to the fridge and ate half a cheesecake while standing up, one hand scrolling Reddit for information on an internet star who became a missing person 5 years ago. The other hand was occupied with gorging. It shoveled the cake into my mouth with a spoon uh, that my child friend Esther gave to me, and that I made a ring out of um, much time later. Uh, I felt I felt bad about eating the cheesecake. Its slightly smaller remaining half resembled a fallen Julius Caesar. I, as Brutus, had just stabbed. I was trying to figure out why my favorite childhood YouTuber had been cancelled. Was it grooming or slurs? I couldn't remember. This was when my eczema flared up, and I applied steroid cream to burn, um, enough to burn Joan herself. I I then watched enough drone strike footage in the Middle East to lull me to sleep. I dreamt of former friends and my life as a woman. I woke up drenched in sweat, a common occurrence ever since I started sertraline. I thought about going for a run. If it was early, it would be nice. I could feel the outside cool air. Instead, I watched a 3 hour video essay recounting a fantasy show I had no interest in watching. Then I sat in my room and thought about a mixture of everything wrong with my appearance and my awkwardness at family gatherings. It has morning It was morning then, my favorite time. I ate a protein bar and watched an erotic arts movie while scrolling. Um, I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled until I found the vintage designer clothes um, that I was searching for. I didn't buy them, but it was a good break. Then I thought about reading Marx or Lacan or any of those names. Eventually, I went for a walk with my headphones and pretended I was Cameron Winter. That's also a very, a very sad one. I did stumble a lot over that one, so apologies. But I think I got the main message out. I think so. This one is a little tongue in cheek. My days are not actually that depressing, but certainly it is does feel there is a kind of certain and it's very common like certain loneliness uh in Australian culture, or you could just say in Western culture, where we kind of ourselves, who we are, uh, is kind of defined and constituted by this transcendence of relationships, and so we kind of have this kind of ontology of like uh, of an individual, right? Someone who is a discrete entity who kind of finds themselves not in others or in other relationships but within themselves in some way, in like a self acculation or whatever. And I think this is the kind of result, which is a very kind of lonely existence where you know the only kind of inherent form of intimacy that we have, the only social unit that which is inherent to us is the family. It's what that one is the only one which we don't have to like really labor for. And um and I think that leaves a lot of people in these types of moments where you're kind of your day is this is obviously a very privileged day as well, because I'm not obviously working in this day. It's like what do you it's like I feel like this is a pretty yeah this is pretty emulative of like a typical like break day where like you are just like kind of it's obviously very personal to me, but it's where you're kind of like just getting to a different stimulant every day, a different fantasy, a different nostalgia, anything to kind of not allow you to kind of to be. And I think although it's a horrible line, like I think I watched enough drone strike footage in the Middle East to lull me to sleep. I think that is a good line that I've written there, if not to brag. I think the rest of it is uh, not not definitely not the most enlightening thing in the world. But that one, I think I think I was, this was kind of right after the U.S. And Israel started the war with Iran, and I think I was just thinking about how you us in this kind of position in Australia and also in the West itself kind of have this kind of have all these like anxieties and this kind of and these kind of senses of dread, but we are kind of disconnected from the we're so disconnected from the kind of violence and brutality of what our governments kind of commit overseas. And Yeah, I don't know. And you know, that kind of idea of like watching a video to go to sleep where like you don't even let your mind kind of think up until you sleep. You want to kind of totally run from silence and boredom in itself. I mean, that is consumption. That is what capitalism does. Okay, man, I was gonna try and find a more happy one, but what's the happy ones I have are I've written for my partner, so I don't really want to read them. um, okay, let me think here. I think I've got one. Okay, yeah. I think this one's kind of interesting. I might make another video because it's kind of getting long, but this one's interesting. This one is kind of about I'm recently doing an art history course, and I was kind of thinking about you know, the artist. It's also the same as like an author and a reader, but more like or a doctor and a patient, more like actually like this kind of relationship between the artist and the object. And you know, we're talking about these kind of experiments through enlightenment where these guys would kind of honestly these doctors but also artists would like experiment on themselves. And you know, there's it's often a very hierarchical relationship where you know, the kind of patient who's usually, you know, is basically usually not a white man, is kind of passive and is a muse, you know, very feminized position, but also very racialized position, in definitely in certain contexts. And I was kind of thinking about that of like what happens when the artist mistakes, you know, the sculpture or the painting for themselves. At least I think that's what it's about. I guess we'll see. I haven't even really read it, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay. Okay. The artist, as me, mistook her sculpture as someone else, but it was her skin who was morphed and her features, which were stylized in her vision. I took the sculpture's hand, my own, and chiseled the ring finger off with my scalpel. The artist then picks up his finger for more testing. Once removed from your body, limbs take on an existence of their own. But this artist, they are so bound up in their gaze that their own body, still attached, becomes a passive object. He probes himself further. The pain is apparent, and yet she continues mutilating himself. For the greater good, he matters as he inserts himself again. Sorry, it says, for the greater good, he mutters as he inserts himself again. His body sculpture begins to fragment and eventually crumble. The body in pieces on the ground thinks to themself, was I a scientist, artist, or doctor? I can't remember. As the marble pieces are thrown onto the other piles of stone, um, shaped limbs, it thinks, I produced something, didn't I? It is the concealment of body, rather than the flesh itself, which is truly worthy of perversion. My comrade Pat has a terrific figure, but he always hides away, concealing his large shoulders in huge thick shirts. He likes to reveal himself to me, though often while others aren't looking. So yeah, so that one is kind of a bit messy. It's very messy. It's very hard to read because I basically switched around the pronouns throughout. You know, the artist as me, her sculpture, themself, it, you know, himself. And I did that because you know, this whole notion of kind of occupying both position of subject and object, where in which, you know, kind of through language the subject is always presumed male, um, is kind of is a form of kind of gender trouble. So of troubling hierarchy of gender, of appropriating gender. So I kind of wanted to appropriate further and completely mix it up, like not only occupy subject an object with a female pronoun, but also with an it pronoun, a them pronoun, and then back again to a male pronoun. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk to. And also, yeah, this notion of like stylizing your own body, where in which um, if you take a photo of yourself, you can style yourself in your vision, in your gaze, um, and that is a kind of not only a resistance act, but also could be like an erotic act because you can kind of find some sort of fetishistic pleasure in that kind of in occupying both position of looker and looked at. Taking back your own body and stylizing it for you and not for someone else. That could be a kind of erotic practice, an empowering practice as well. The last bit is again about Pat. Pat is not a real person. Pat um, is someone who makes me laugh, I think, and so I like to kind of include him, and he kind of makes the story for himself, if that makes sense. And so here he has a terrific figure, but he will only conceal it. But he always conceals it in these huge, thick shirts. I think that was because at this time I was watching lots of these really, really jacked guys, and they were huge, but they all seem to wear these ginormous shirts before they ultimately reveal their, chiseled bodies. And there's something to that. There's something to kind of covering their shirt up until like this penultimate, orgasmic moment or something like that. I don't know. I just think it's a funny relationship to clothing, bodily relationship to clothing, where you kind of it's like a treat, like you wait until after the gym to reveal your kind of physique to yourself and to others. Yeah. Well, anyway, so that's kind of all I wanted to talk about, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed.